up, everybody? My name is Keith Cordeiro, the VP of Commercial Sales at Salesloft. Excited to have Dave Mehta today from Revenir and chatting through scaling the sales team. So I guess to kick us off, share a little bit about Revenir and your role there.
Thanks, Keith. So Revenir, if folks that don't know about us, we are an outbound sales company, focusing mostly on outbound sales, building revenue for any small startups to scale ups to any Fortune 500 companies that we build predictable outbound sales model. We do content syndication for them, the whole 9 yards for sales. We hire SDRs on behalf of our customers when they source it to us. And these individuals, they're white label SDRs. They are dedicated for those customers specifically. So they don't sell any other products except the customer's products. And when I say products, I'm talking about SaaS software. We don't sell any services as of yet right now, but we are an MSP. We are a managed service provider. So what we do is, we integrate within their tech stack. And then a little bit about me. I joined the company about 6 years ago. Started as a BDR. Worked my way towards the operations role. And I'm oversee the operations right now. So I work with vendors across if it's tech stack, IT related, specific to that. But my role is a traditional sales ops role, and I wear many hats. So I'm also business operations, sales operations. Sometimes IT if it had to be. It gets tricky. You're selling a SaaS product at the end of the day, so you got to be sassy sometimes. So happy to be here.
Nice. So. Tell us a little bit about the way that you kind of structure your packaging, because your use case is a little different than most that utilize Salesloft. So I'd love to have you unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, so the way we use Salesloft, it's very different than your regular B2B client. So our average B2B, you're looking at when a customer signs with you guys, it's mostly they're selling from business to business. What we do is, we are selling B2B, but we are an agency type of model.
Right.
So right now we have about 50 plus customers on the floor, about 300 plus SDRs on the floor right now. And then, an average team size that we have, it's about a team of 3. So if you had to consider, how we use Salesloft, it's very unique. It's an agency type of model. Every single time we get Salesloft, we spin it up individually for every team. Mm-hmm. All those custom integrations, field mappings are done for those customers specifically. So if you consider it, as like a TAM, SAM, SOM model, so it's like your total addressable market, your service addressable market, and your service optimizable market, right? So your target market, your TAM, everyone focuses on like, hey, I have this many folks on my market that I could go after. And in reality, you can only reach certain audiences, which is part of your SOM. So, you want to attract those customers. So like the way we use it is we collect data every time we integrate Salesloft with every single, CRM that we use. So like we have about 60% of customers use Salesforce as a CRM, about 35 uses HubSpot, and then about 5% is like D365. We don't collect any sort of PII data or anything like that. What we collect is a title, where those persons are based. So especially when a team is calling, they can collect data based off on it. So every time they log, the data gets simultaneously written back to a CRM, which would be their record of truth. And at the end of the day, that data comes back to us in either Snowflake, or we use automations to bring it back to our data warehouse. We have a machine learning model built on top of it, where, as an example, you come to me and you say, hey, I want to start up a sales team. Here's my TAM, here's my ICP. What should I do now? I could plug that into my software, and when I say software, it's Tableau, and it just spits out a number for me. Say, based on this market, the industries you're going after, we will be able to sell into. We will be able to book you about 30 or 40 meetings this quarter or this month, whatever the case is. So depending on what market you're going after, what's your ICP, we'll be able to predict that based off on it. So that's why we call it predictable outbound sales model. And then we collect data based on it, and we make our teams better on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. So you're essentially putting together a tech starter kit, mm-hmm. right? That has technology pieces. You're sharing best practices based off the data that you're able to gather from your other customers.
Correct.
So not only are you saying, hey, Salesloft is something that you should be using for your sales engagement, HubSpot mm-hmm. something you should be using for your CRM. Mm-hmm. Here's kind of your tech stack on where to start, right, in terms of the framework. but you also have access to all these data points. So you're saying, hey, for prospecting, here's potentially in this industry the best time of day that you could call, the kind of messaging that's working the best in those industries.
Yeah, so so it's similar to that.
Yeah.
So the two big players in our tech stack is Salesloft, of course, you guys. We switched over about 7 years ago to you from one of your competitors, and we built out our whole tech stack based on it. So we have another platform that we get our data from. We use Salesloft, and then customers will bring in their CRM. So if they're using Salesforce, they're using HubSpot, as we were talking about the framework. We'll build out a whole data flow on top of it. Like, hey, this is how it works. So sometimes, you have a unique situation where a customer comes in like, I want to integrate Marketo in it. Now I want your data to go to Marketo, to Salesforce, to Salesloft. So now you have to craft out a whole unique market plan for that customer in terms of operational functionality. It does get tricky because you have to document all that stuff and then forward it. And especially every single customer is unique to their own environment, so they bring their own custom field mappings, they bring in their own custom data. So at the end of the day, you got to make them happy. You want to collect that data for them. So and going back to the collection data piece, right? So like I'm telling you what good times are there to call during the day, right? Or like what are like the top performing email cadences by the email name or like by the domain titles. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you could say, hey, like this type of messaging works best for CRO and manufacturing.
Correct. Yeah, so it's very robust, right? So like once you start plugging data in, and then we collect. So imagine a team of 30 people. That's selling one market. They're going after one market, but they're SMB, they're mid-market, and they're enterprise. So they're divided into like 10 each, right? So now, going based off an SMB mid-market, their ICP is still the same, but their buyer cycle changes, their buyer behavior changes because they won't be able to close as fast as they can.
Hence their messaging would be
changed. Right. Yeah. So collecting that information, bringing it back, and then using that data and giving back to our customers, it creates a whole world for them, because now it helps them plan out their better sales cycle. Like, hey, I had a 30-day sales cycle, what's happening? Why is my 60 days, 90 days? But like you break it down by SMB, mid-market, enterprise, and then now you'll be able to break it alongside, because an enterprise company, you see it goes through procurement, it goes through like multiple other avenues, and for SMB it's easier because you're only a few folks working, it's easier to get the deal a little faster. So just having those key points and bringing it back, it adds really unique value.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm going to ask a super selfish question right now. Of all of the pieces of software that you could use, and as you deliver this to the customers, why choose Salesloft?
That's a great question.
It's almost like it was planted.
Yeah, well, as I said, there was a reason why we changed over to you guys 7 years ago.
Yeah.
If you take a traditional sales team right now, you're looking at a dialer that you're making calls. You're looking at an email sequencing tool that you're sending emails out with. You're looking for a tool that does cadencing for you, right? So you want to be prioritizing cadences. So, and then on top of that, you're looking to coach your team. You're looking at email signatures, you're looking at website tracking, lead scoring, so all that stuff. And not to add, like a lot of folks use Calendly nowadays for their email booking or meeting links, stuff like that. Or I think there's another one recently that records your call. It's kind of like Chorus AI and a couple of the other competitors out in the market. But think about that, all that stuff, you can able to incorporate that within one platform. That changes a lot of things. So if I have 300 SDRs selling on the floor, and I have to bring in different platforms to integrate well within their customer CRM and bring that data back, it's tough for me.
Sure.
So a product like Salesloft makes it easier because I have your email sequencing, your cadencing, your local dialer presence, your dialers, emails, all that stuff is pre-built out. You have your call recording, you have an AI conversational bot that sits on top of your meeting. So let's say if I'm a G Suite customer, right? So I integrate my emails, my Google Drive, anything, and I host my meetings on Google Meets. the AI note taker would go in, just like a Chorus AI, it would sit and it would record my calls, but it's all done natively within the Salesloft platform.
Right.
So I don't need to bring 30 other platforms to do that job for me. One platform's doing everything for me.
Or search for the data.
Search for the data. And you could put in keywords, so you could type in some stuff like next steps, and it will kind of bring out, it will tell you, like record specific items from that call and tell you like these were the next steps that were discussed on the call. And it will give you highlights, and you could bring that data live time transcription back to your CRM. So think about that, how huge that is.
Yeah.
And any company nowadays, right now, what they're looking at is collect marketing data at the end of the day. So the marketing teams wants to know, like if I'm reaching out to you and you're using Salesloft, and I'm selling you outreach as an example, I'll call you and like, hey Keith, like, what are you using? It was like, yeah, I'm using Salesloft. Now I could, as a sales rep, I could bring that data back to Salesloft. Bi-directional fields would bring that data back to CRM. So now you're creating win-win situation for both of your sales team and marketing team, because now they'll be able to create more personalized approach for your team, like more personalized cadences, email,
more relevancy,
relevance,
more
and all this.
Yeah, and you're able to share this with
correct
customers.
And that all ties in back to the TAM SAM model. So like now you go to your service obtainable market. Now you could figure out, rather than going after 100 million. In ARR, like these are like your customers, blah, 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 blah. You come back and then now you narrow it down to the market that you could actually reach and sell into. And then one of the big benefits that we have seen in terms of personalized outreach is the people that you're reaching out to, like the prospects, the way they engage with your content. So like, you could connect clicks, views, all that stuff on the emails that you're sending, especially with the website tracking that's on there.
Yeah.
You could go in and check where and each prospect was able to actually view or went to your website, so that your conversions as well. And then now you know that, hey, this person is highly likely to convert if I could increase my outreach and make it more personalizable. So now rather than focusing on 100 folks every day, you could focus on like 10 or 15 and then have a better conversion rate at the end of the day.
That's fascinating. So one of the things I know everybody here, myself, really anybody in the market right now, as we kind of navigate through some of the dynamics of the macroeconomic volatility. One of the things that a lot of people are interested in is around best practices, right?
Yep.
Because best practices, like markets, inherently adapt and change over time. So curious, you're in a really unique position because you have access to so many different organizations that are utilizing Salesloft, that are utilizing this data. Curious, in the last 6 months, in the last year, what are some of like the most fascinating, interesting best practices and trends that you're seeing with your customers?
Yeah, so
in terms of prospecting.
Prospecting, yeah. Like the biggest key takeaway that we have seen is the sales cycles have changed in the past year. So the folks that had a 60 or 90-day sales cycle have doubled within the past year. So now you're looking at teams that are looking to cut down on spend. They're looking to cut down on operational costs, or like you see a lot of layoffs going out in the market because they can't afford to keep folks, because there's just no revenue coming in.
Yeah.
So like the biggest factor we have seen is the sales cycle that has a prolonged effect on like the macroeconomic conditions that have effect on that. And then in terms of in collecting data, I think you are collecting data at the end of the day, but it doesn't. You have to see like how engaging that your content is. So like you make it more approachable, you make it more personalized. So like those are some of the factors that we have seen. Again, that all ties back to like how we're here like talking about scaling and growing. They both are the same thing at the end of the day. But if you had to break it down between scaling and growing kind of, it correlates with each other. So growing is that your company's growing like crazy, your revenue is growing, but your costs are also growing. And if you think about scaling, your company's growing, your revenue is growing, but you're cutting down your costs are staying low. So that's the big difference. So a lot of companies don't realize that, like they receive fundings and they're going on a big spend and they're spending like it's nothing, but their sales cycles have changed tremendously. And in lately we have noticed is we collect LinkedIn data as well. So not collect data in a way, but we don't collect PII data. We collect informational data, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
And social selling has increased way more because now you could we collect data through Salesloft, Sales Nav integration, so everything is built in one platform. So now you have steps like folks that are going in and connecting with folks. So you could do relatively that same connect rather than using LinkedIn's platform. You could do it from Salesloft platform. So you're collecting that data, and then you're comparing that with number of calls that are being placed, number of emails that are being sent, and any sort of social outreach that's been working on. So now with the social outreach, we're seeing that, hey, this SDR was able to send out 30 connects as an example. Out of those 30 connects, 15 people accepted it, and outside of 15, like 4 people turned into like a meeting or not. So like you're carrying. So if you had to look at the outliers, your number of calls that you're being placed. So an average SDR places about 60 dials a day, and about 40 or 50 emails that are sequenced on automated. Yep. So there's no personalization on it. So like with the data that we're collecting, we're starting to narrow it down on the SOM and your total addressable market, and then now we could create more personalized outreach. And then now with that, you can see the LinkedIn stuff is converting more. So depending on what channel or medium you're selling into, you'll be able to kind of break it down by what's selling and what's not working for you to bring that data back.
Gotcha. So I want to go back to what you said about sales cycles being longer than we've seen historically. I think everybody is feeling that right now. How are you adapting the way that you're approaching the best practices that you're sharing to customers for something like that? Do you utilize active opportunity cadencing at all with your teams? Like, we'd love to kind of hear how you're seeing some of the data, right? The personalization piece. I'm sure you're probably looking at the reporting and measuring the percentage of personalization for each template, et cetera.
Yeah, so
how are you using that data and then kind of like delivering, I guess, that back?
Yeah, so when a cadence is created, you could bring that cadence analytics back in terms of reporting. So we recommend our customers to create a separate specific cadence when a person is an active opportunity. So gotcha. We use Rhythm from your platform.
I've heard of
it. So it does the automated stuff for you. So you don't have to set up tasks to go in. Now you could set up tasks like, hey, you haven't heard back from your prospect within XYZ days, right? And you could set up an automated check-in. So like an email would send out using dynamic fields like, hey, so-and-so at XYZ company, I'm sending you, this is a follow-up, like below to catch up. And then rather than you doing it, an admin would go in and set that steps up within that cadence, or a team lead would be able to do it for their team. And then now, rather than the reps, it cuts down time on their end. So like on average, we see about 20-30% time that frees up on our reps end, because all that automation is taking care of all that on the active opportunity. So now they could focus on closing more deals. Once the person clicks on an email, you set an automation like, hey, he clicked on it 3 times. Now remove him from the cadence so another automated email doesn't go out, and move him to a call-only cadence.
Gotcha.
So you could set up automations like that. And which is a unique functionality. I've used it when I was an SDR.
That's what we
before.
do, yeah.
And
so it is there shouldn't be any prospects or customers that are not in some type of cadencing of whether it be prospecting, whether it be a call cadence, whether it be prioritization based off of different integrations.
Yeah, so we're a phone-first approach company. So every time we call, every time we engage, we call. That'll be the first thing. Emails work to a certain extent, as you can imagine. Depending on if you're deep in pipeline and someone goes in, like you were sending out emails to a prospect and it's like, hey, he's looking to buy, but now he knows he doesn't have funding to buy. So he's not responding to your emails. So if he goes in and marks you as spam or puts you in a blacklist, now you can't get a hold of that person. Right. So what we have seen is, incorporating different mediums. So like you involve LinkedIn as a step. Yeah. So you send out a connect on LinkedIn if you're not connected with them. If not, then you call first, right? So you do some research, you reach out to their colleague, get introduced to like the main decision maker. So there are steps that you could create based on it. And then, and from that perspective, you'll be able to understand a buyer's behavior. Like, why is he not responding? You kind of find out if they're, if they're laying off their, a good amount of their workforce, or how they kind of stand financially, and it kind of gives you those ideas. And you go back to from the SDR, I'll go back to my sales manager. I'm like, hey man, this is not working. This is I've tried XYZ steps. I've tried LinkedIn. I've tried phone. The last thing I want is just go on and knock on their door. That's
true. Well, even better, the sales manager can pull up the analytics inside of Salesloft and see if it's working or not.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So one thing that's really interesting to me is the content and the messaging that you're going to market with. I think is important. But another interesting piece is the actual framework of the cadence structure itself. So you hear a lot about, maybe a double tap works, which is an email and then a phone call, or maybe the phone call, dropping a voicemail, hey, the whole John Barrows, not going to leave my phone number, I'm going to drop you an email, here's the subject line. Like, are you seeing any really fascinating or interesting combos in terms of like, do this, run through this channel, and then this channel, and then this channel, or? Does it depend on vertical probably?
Yeah, that's a really good ask. A lot of companies have their own way of sequencing these, and I'm pretty sure you and your team are doing it differently than what other folks are working. So I think it depends on what market you're reaching out to, like what folks you're going after.
Yeah.
If you're going after like C-level stuff, you'll be hard to get them in terms of on a call. So email is a good approach because you either hit a secretary or a gatekeeper, they won't let you pass after a certain point.
Sure.
So what we are seeing, as I said, we're a phone-first approach company, but you could do email sequencing, and I've seen that work really good or really well, is you would set up an automated step after a call, so it would launch after 30 seconds or 120 seconds. You could set a timer, and the step would automatically trigger, so based on the disposition. So if I'm calling you and I don't get it, I'll just log it as no answer, I didn't talk to you.
Yeah.
An automated email would go out, say, hey Keith, I tried reaching out, this is what I do, XYZ, here's how we can help you guys. And then it will automatically skip it to the next step. So now you can do 1, 3, 5, 7, depending on what day your cadences you could do. What I've seen folks doing in past is based on, they find the trigger points. I was going back to the SAW model, where like, hey, they engage better. So now you take the folks that are engaging with your content better, you put them in a separate email cadence, and a targeted personalized email will go out every single time. And what we have seen is we don't do every other day, we do once a week. Because you don't want to bombard someone with like multiple emails at the end of the day and they're like, all right, I'm not interested anymore. So after 1 or 2 emails are being sent, depending on how they engage with that, it automatically moves that person from there to a different cadence, and it'll be a call-only cadence. So now, if the person's engaging on the first email of that cadence, and I have 5 different steps of emails going out, and the first email he clicked on like 5 times, boom, he gets taken out, no more emails, goes to a call-only cadence. And then now I could do lead scoring from it. So now I know how highly engaging that person is, and it also updates it back to CRM. So it depends on if you're using HubSpot, if you're using Salesforce, you can write that data back. And then from their point of view, you just phone-first approach, as I say, just get calling them until you get them on the phone.
Gotcha. So let's say I'm a prospect, I open up an email 10 times in 30 minutes, I don't respond. You're saying you've built these automation triggers essentially that are pulling them from that cadence, which might be an email-only cadence, surfacing them into a call-only cadence, and then through something like Rhythm, it's prioritizing that as an AE. Oh, I need to call this person right now because they've just opened up my email in the last 10 minutes.
I've been an SDR, I know how that feels. Every time someone downloads a content, it comes to you, and we're like, all right, the score is 35 because the marketing scoring them based on how many clicks they went on your website, or so like you're going after them quick.
Right.
If he opened my email, he's probably at his desk. Let me just give him a call.
Sure.
I've seen it works certain ways. Sometimes they could have forwarded that email to someone else and they would have clicked it, and then it's a really hit or miss.
Yeah.
But I would say about 60% of the time when an email is being clicked or open and you reach them right after that, like a call within a minute or within the 5-minute range, we have seen about a 60% conversion rate on that. So on average on our floor, we see about 30% connect rate and about 6% conversation rate. That varies depending on what market they're selling. So we have any industry you imagine, we sell into those industry for our customers. So just the beauty of that, using Salesloft, the other platforms, we have everything integrated. We have an app package that is listed on Salesforce App Exchange, which consists about 129 different reports and 9 different dashboards. So we update that on a yearly basis. And then now it's me and my team, as I said, I shouldn't take all the credit, but it's just one other person on my team, so it's just 2 of us.
So you're half the team.
Yeah.
You can take half the credit.
Take half the credit for it. But he's the smart guy. I'll give it to him. So we every time we work with a customer who is a Salesforce customer, we go in and implement that. And then with that, they'll be able to track any sort of meetings that are being scheduled. Lead conversion rates, lead to a meeting conversion rate, from meeting to an opportunity conversion rate. You're looking at attribution purposes, because sometimes we work out of customers' instances. So just to get attribution for our SDRs, that's a big thing.
Gotcha.
And then we have reports varied across the whole the whole Salesforce org, and we're doing the same thing for HubSpot. We have the HubSpot org built out, right? So we connect Salesforce, Salesloft, HubSpot, and then now you could do all those reporting directly into HubSpot's native integration, and then you're bringing that data back at the end of the day. So I'm happy that you guys work with HubSpot now, because it was a challenge for us, because we turned down every single customer about a year ago that were a HubSpot shop, because we never worked with them.
Right.
And then since the integration came out, about, as I said, 35% of our customers that we have signed are HubSpot customers now. So it is growing. It's a great platform as well.
Love it. Well, I just got the wrap up from the woman behind the curtain. So one last question before we leave. I'd love to know, what's the best subject line you've seen lately, most successful, that leads to most conversions?
The easiest one is company name - your name.
Yeah.
Question mark.
Question marks now.
Question marks.
There you go. There you go, everybody.
It's
You're welcome.
the easiest one, and it works every single time.
Awesome. Dave, thanks so much.
Keith, appreciate it.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Let's give Dave and Keith a hand. Thanks, guys.